Yeah, hello everyone. Welcome to the IDFC Pavilion. Today is a big day for us because we will be launching the Clean Energy and Energy Inclusion Initiative in Africa, a new partnership for innovation in green off-grid energy. I hope the sound will improve. Yeah, I'm Barbara Schnell. I'm head of the Sector Policy Department at KFW Development Bank. I have the honor to guide you through this session today and a panel discussion. But before I do so, let me hand over to Jochen Flassbart, State Secretary at the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. And he will be giving us an introductory statement. And yeah, Mr. Flassbart, please join me here on stage.
Hi everybody here in this room, but also online. Happy to be here with you on this launching of a new foundation. Sound is still a bit bad. That's better now? No, I have an echo. Is that better now? Pardon? So I just continue as good as I can. Colleagues, let me start by saying that energy poverty is something that is very much in the focus of our Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development. And speaking today about Africa, we need to realize that the multiple crises, pandemic, but also the consequences of the Russian war against Ukraine hit the African continent in many areas significantly more than other parts of the world. This is with regard to food supply, but also in the field of energy supply. And sub-Saharan Africa is the only region in the world where we had a substantial decrease of access to clean and affordable energy. I even couldn't believe it that 25 million were without access to energy, additional 25 million in the last 3 years. So the number of people without access to energy increased to roughly 600 million, 475 million people. And of course, this is something we need to address. We know from the EAR that 2/3 of the electricity supplied to a household will come from decentralized energy sources. I see my good friend Bärbel Höhn, who is advocating to strengthen decentralized energy supplies, renewable energy supplies wherever possible. There is another point I want to make. I was addressed by some colleagues here that yesterday we had some side events together with our minister, Svenja Schulze, on feminist development policies. Basically, we have only side events touching on feminist development policy, and this is also a part of what we are discussing here, because among those who are without access to energy, the number of women is higher than the number of men. So we have to do something about it, and that is where the new foundation, the new fund comes into place, the Clean Energy and Energy Inclusion Africa, say Africa. When I was addressed first by this idea, I was a bit skeptical. Do we need more instruments? Do we need more institutions? Do we need more channels instead of increasing our supplies through the existing channels? But as I'm sitting here, you can imagine now I'm convinced, and the issue that women-managed SMEs are in the core of this new institution and this new instrument is one of the arguments. The second one is that we will create a one-stop shop based on result-based financing, and the third one that we use an innovative format, the cooperation with digital platforms to increase the involvement of the private sector. Christiane, we discussed it many times with public funding, also through KFW or other public banks. We will not make it. We need to get the private sector in, and wherever we can grab new innovative instruments, it is of interest for us. And having said that, I wish our new baby the best way in growing and other partners coming in. I should mention before I close that this new instrument is established, say Africa by KFW on behalf of BMZ, but there are more than one mothers and fathers. It's also our Austrian and Swiss colleagues. I'm very grateful for their support, and I hope others will join. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for your very kind and inspiring introductory words. So I look forward to discussing all the aspects you have tapped on, how innovative this instrument is in our panel discussion. And first of all, let me introduce our distinguished panel. Two of them are personally here, and three very exciting panelists are joining us online. So it will be a very, very full and insightful discussion, I'm sure. So please, Mrs. Yvonne Baumann, Ambassador of Switzerland to Egypt, please join me, thank you. You also represent the Swiss Agency for Development Cooperation and the Swiss Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And Switzerland, as Mr. Flassbart pointed out, is one of the constituting donors of this initiative. So welcome, and thank you that you took the time to participate in this panel. Then online from Kenya, I would like to welcome Joan Jaenza. Mrs. Jaenza is a renewable energy finance professional and is at the forefront of driving decentralized renewable energy access in Africa. She speaks on behalf of the African Mini Grid Developers Association. So thank you for being with us today, Joanne. And then and then online from Senegal, I welcome Fatoumata Savan. Mrs. Savan is Managing Director and CFO of Ulu Solar, the fastest growing grid solar company in West Africa. Yeah, so we have two very powerful women from Africa with us. So thank you for being with us today, even online.
Thank you for the invitation.
And last but not least, I would like to introduce Steven Evers. Steven joins us from the Netherlands today, and he is co-founder and CEO of Triple Jump. And the Triple Jump company is managing the foundation we are talking about today. So hello, Steven.
Hello, thank you for having me. Good afternoon, everybody. Looking forward to the discussion.
So, and I close my introduction by welcoming the host of our event today. So I'm happy to have Christiane Leibach with me. She's member of the management board of KFW. Mrs. Leibach is responsible for KFW's international commercial banking operation, KFW IPEX Bank, as well as KFW Development Bank, and our private sector arm, the DEG. So thank you for hosting this event today. And you will get my first question. So what's been the motivation of KFW to be very instrumental in founding this foundation?
Okay, I'll take yours. We share the microphone. So my pleasure to be here and to host this event. Yeah, I think rural electrification, or the lack of rural electrification, if to be very precise, is something we are all very much aware of, in particular in sub-Saharan Africa. And I think it's just detrimental to the development of everything and anything, from the individual course of for people's lives, of education, of health, for small business, and so on and so forth. And I'm kind of very clear that, at least, I think it's probably like 6-8 years ago, at least to my knowledge, it somehow then sparked the idea that maybe we should all focus more on off-grid solution instead of grid solutions. And that reminds me a bit about on the discussion, and actually not only discussion but implementation on the telecom side, yeah, where we all know that we made a really big effort, big success, and the countries made a big success in leapfrogging the terrestrial infrastructure and thinking in different ways. So my hope is that we can kind of copy that for the rural electrification in Africa. Yeah, but the question is always then, it's easily said, but how it's done. And I think this how it's done is really, has its question marks and has its challenges. I remember that with DG we had once a very promising purely private and commercial venture to get rural electrification to Africa, and it failed. Yeah, so the lessons learned, I think we always have to question ourselves again, what can really be a promising model and what not. And so I think this fund that we are inaugurating today is trying to combine really what is needed, namely some kind of a public instrument, some kind of public funds, which can be used really to make things happen and to be as an incentive. But nevertheless, I think there's a lot of interest, and luckily a lot of interest around the world in that private capital can join in there. And I think that is our clear direction here for this fund as well, that we find good models where we can combine public funds and private funds and increase by that, obviously, the volume of financing that is available, and implement projects and programs which really achieve what they're supposed to be, to bring rural electrification to Africa.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and you're touching on a very big challenge, how to generate more funding volume and how to tap on the private sector expertise and capacities there. So let me turn to Yvonne Baumann now. So the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation has worked with KFW and the ministry, as well as the Austrian Development Agency, over the past 2 years to actually make the Clean Energy Initiative Africa happen. So what is your main reason to be part of this initiative and this donor collaboration?
Thank you very much, Mr. State Secretary, Mrs. Leiber, Mr. Schnell, dear fellow panelists online, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, I would first of all start by thanking all the relevant stakeholders, particularly the Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, KFW, the Austrian Development Agency, for the great work they have collectively put into establishing the CIA Africa. From the point of view of Switzerland, more precisely the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation, it has been a very fruitful collaboration. Our focus was particularly on adding a social impact incentive financing mechanism to the Foundation's funding instruments. We have been motivated specifically by the great potential for the development benefits which the Foundation and its various financing mechanisms offer. CI Africa provides an excellent platform, according to our view, to apply financing mechanism of social impact incentives on a large scale in the energy sector. This should lead directly to a better access to productive use of renewable energy in rural areas in Africa, such as equipment like water pumping, coal storage, ice making, or coffee grinding, and through this equipment contribute to improve the livelihoods of people. Switzerland has applied social impact incentive financing mechanisms in various project and thematic areas, and it has so far proven to be an effective financing mechanism to generate social impact. That means to generate income and better living conditions. As a parenthesis, I would like to add that I am personally more familiar with the concept from Latin America, where we also employed it, but in the field of employability, to create jobs and to hold people which have difficulties in the labor market, to hold them on jobs by the same mechanism, just in a different context. The different funding mechanisms make CIA Africa unique and interesting for both beneficiaries and donors. We are delighted that other donors are interested in joining the foundation, and I would like to encourage everybody who can to do so. Donor cooperation, that I would like to underline, donor cooperation in climate finance through pooling of funds offers a great advantage in terms of economies of scale and synergies. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. So now from the donor side, we will turn to the people who this is really for. So I would like to ask Joanne. Joanne, what are the key features that make the Clean Energy Initiative Africa so attractive for African mini-grid developers?
Absolutely. I'd like to start by talking about where we are, of course, in the achievement of SDG 7. And looking at where we are, the trajectory that we need to take, we are actually sort of, we have 8 years to realize the achievements of, of course, the ambition of universal access to everyone. And, when you're looking at sort of reflecting on the numbers that are out here, the very latest SMAP mini-grids for $500 million report indicated that we need to construct more than 160,000 mini-grids in Sub-Saharan Africa by the year 2030. So there is definitely need for appropriate financing facilities to be able to undertake this mammoth task. And having said that, there is really a lack of these financing facilities that we're able to use right now in the market. And I think what is really novel and unique about the CDI Africa Fund is that it not only targets mini developers, right? It looks at the entire ecosystem and looks at productive use of energy, and also looks at other off-grid, enhancing the entire value chain with other off-grid companies. Another key thing that has already been mentioned is the one-stop shop, and I think this is really a brilliant idea of bringing in RPS, an RPS facility, and layering that with a debt facility, and of course technical assistance that is really needed to be able to support developers to be investor ready and to be able to draw these funds. Having said that, what is really catalytic is that we're seeing public funding really used to catalyze and leveraging private capital, and I'm really excited, of course, about the crowd lending window that is available, and just the ability to leverage private capital using this methodology. Another key thing is the selection of the countries. I'm really excited about the countries that we've ended up with. These are countries that have a solid developer pipeline, mini developer pipeline. So when you're talking about Kenya, Sierra Leone, DRC, Benin, Madagascar, these are really amazing countries that have really promising pipeline. Having said that, and something that I've just mentioned is the smart outcomes methodology, which I think is really an innovation, because most of the RDFs that are out there are really looking at connection, and what the smart RDF does is that it looks beyond just the connection, and really looks at impact, really looks at productive use and other elements like women empowerment, which I think is really novel and an additional to what we already see in the market. The other key thing and is a technical assistance. I already mentioned this, but just to mention it once more, is that there's a real need to, of course, upskill developers, and most so local developers in areas of ESG compliance, impact measurement, supporting due diligence, structuring of SPVs and asset companies. And I think this is really an area that the fund can, the technical assistance facility of the fund can really be additional with regard to its value proposition and offering. And I think this is really a brilliant idea, and I'm really excited that AMDA was able to support the consortium of the fund managers in structuring with stakeholder engagement that has contributed to the final outcome in the structuring of this fund. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joanne. You provided a great overview of all the instruments, the range of instruments the Clean Energy Initiative is going to offer, results-based financing, loans, etc., so that all the financing needs are going to be addressed. So let me turn to Fatoumata now. How can Ulu's clients in Senegal benefit from the Clean Energy Initiative?
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Fatoumata. And now I would like to turn to Steven, managing the foundation. And I would like to ask you, Steven, so how do you assess the potential of the Clean Energy Initiative in Africa to increase the access to affordable clean energy despite the multiple crises environment we are currently in? Steven.
Together with ADA and STC cleaning up, it's really the right time to provide for that capital. And I do feel that with CEI Africa we have quite a unique offer. We have all the ingredients, as already mentioned. We have a combination, I think we can offer between very flexible investment solutions, results-based financing and technical assistance all to green mini-grids as well as companies that offer standalone off-grid solar solutions. And as already mentioned, we really want to do that, and that's unique together with crowd lenders to catalyze private capital, and that all with the aim to provide access to energy to households, communities and SMEs. So I'd like to maybe turn around your question. So it's not because of the crisis, or it's not despite the crisis, but because of the crisis. It's so elementary to really engage in initiatives like CI Africa, because they really strengthen local resilience of communities through the energy independence, and make no mistake, this is certainly not the last energy crisis that we will get. And on top of that, it allows for the local development, really engaging in stimulating local economic activities, not only your regular SMEs, but electrifying smallholder farmers, also providing safe and reliable energy for local amenities such as health clinics, such as schools, and what you mentioned. And really from a top-down perspective, and that's why I think we're all here, it's from a climate crisis perspective. We have to allow Africa, that is industrializing, that will have 2.5 billion inhabitants by the end of the century, to really leapfrog the fossil age and enter into a new clean energy era, and I think that's beneficial for all of us. So, thank you for that.
Okay, yeah, so now we would like to turn to the second round of questions on the private investors' perspective. So, Christiane Leibach, where do you see the private investors' incentive to participate and invest in this kind of endeavor, given the structure, the innovative structure of this foundation?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, maybe let's first spend a couple of words on what kind of a private investor we might want to talk here about, because I think we all talk a lot about nowadays about private capital mobilization, but I think we'll have to look very precisely what we're talking about, what kind of projects. And I think when we're talking about large solar power or wind farms, I think that is anyway tending into the more commercial space and with investors from the capital markets. But a project like rural infrastructure, I think, is good to try to tap other markets and other means. And there I really like about this project here that we're really using what is today offered in terms of digitalization, really to get to smaller investors, to get investors like all of us, and to tap the market which does crowdfunding. And that is possible because we can work with digital platforms. We can do that through different means and ways. We can communicate with potential small-scale investors via the internet to make everything possible and show everything what we are doing. And I think this combination of climate-related investment and digitalization, another thing that is a lot talked about, is here, I think, really showing what it can mean, and that we have just very different means really to enlarge the private investors or fund spaces than we ever did. That's the one part. The other part, what can we offer as implementers, as fund managers, as donors, and the people on the ground. And I think what the fund provides, obviously, is some risk cushion, to put it that way, so that with the official money we can just cushion what the private investors put in. And I think we'll take it serious, and I think we can bring that to the table, really quality projects which are great in terms of sustainability, where the best is done as can be done, and transparency and all that. I think hope and will attract private investors, small-scale private investors, really to maybe get into this, for them probably maybe more adventurous way in putting their money. But for a very, very good cause, because I think it is in all our interest when we, together with the people in Africa, that they have the chance to develop their own countries and their living, and that we both together can do that.
Thank you, Christiane. Now let me turn to Ambassador Baumann once more. What is the main development impact you would be expecting from the Clean Energy Initiative Africa? Please.
Thank you. We believe that the fund can directly contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals, and we see benefits and expect an impact on, first, improving access to affordable and clean energy, that corresponds to SDG 7. Second, combating climate change, SDG 13. And third, and important, supporting women empowerment, which corresponds to SDG number 5. We are particularly interested in demonstrating through CIA Africa that access to productive use of energy equipment leads to improved living conditions for people in Africa. Furthermore, that a social impact financing scheme is effective when it comes to give incentives to companies to deploy equipment for productive use of energy. And in this context, the economic empowerment of women is crucial. It is also an important goal of CIA Africa as such. SDC has implemented a social impact incentive financing mechanism on a smaller scale in another project in Kenya. And the results from which we can learn and draw have shown that the role of women in their households and in their communities can be changed, and their opportunities can be enhanced and improved if they have access to this type of equipment. As I said, the so-called productive use of energy equipment. Just to give you two examples, for instance, solar-powered cooling systems. With this, women can improve income by selling agricultural products when the price is highest. Or another example, electrical sewing machines. With this, women can generate income and benefit from a home-based activity and increase the productivity of this activity at the same time with rather simple equipment, but they need, of course, access to energy. And there we see the link between women empowerment and the benefits for development with modern adequate financing instruments. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and who is more in a position to talk about women empowerment than the African women themselves? So let me turn to Fatoumata again. So what is needed, in your opinion, to empower women entrepreneurs in African off-grid energy? And how can women clients of ULU benefit from the activities of the Clean Energy Initiative Africa? Please, Fatoumata.
Yes, so thank you. So we need to implement a lot of action to empower women in African off-grid energy. Today, ULU is considered as a social impact company, and we really believe that gender equality and female economic empowerment are fundamental to get to progressive society. And today we have implemented into our company a gender balanced policy, and we try to put in place training to enroll women into technical roles and to implement gender and inclusive and transformative policies into our company. And in terms of clients, we know that today all SHS devices are benefits to women. So I can describe two opportunities created by our SHS. So the first part is the economic opportunities. With the corporation, we see I will be able to put in place lower payment rates, and we know that in all targeted markets, women are really income constrained than men, and this is a result of a very gendered economic and domestic growth. And when we are able to provide a very affordable device with monthly payment, you are able to reach those customers, and because they are now able to align their energy consumptions to their ability to pay. And today, all sales agents who are on the field say that women are very aware of that, and they are not put off from installing SHS into our house over fluctuating payment fears. And we have also able to provide those devices, we are able to reach very remote village, and you are able to provide additional hours of light for days. And it's very important for women for the traditional domestic and reproductive roles into the households. And we know that some women with SHS no longer have to cook in darkness, and have also more time to pursue their economic activities. I can read one testimony of one of our clients from our last survey. Olu Solar could reduce Olu Solar, yes. There was no way I could work in the restaurant at night without having a light. Now I can do it with the solar system. Many of my clients come at night. So you see, you can directly see the impact of that. And secondly, I wanted to talk about the access of education and information. We know that women today in our market suffer from lack of access to education and information. Young boys are considered more of a priority than young girls because of the domestic roles allocated to women. And with these extra hours, young girls are allowed to study longer. So according to Google, 91% of SHS customers say that with SHS, children have more time to do their homework. And we know that Olu provides also TVs, and in general, the access to TV is restricted to men because they have to move to the nearest grid-connected village to watch TVs. And we know that women are not allowed for security questions to move alone at night, and having TVs at homes allows female and family to benefit from it and to increase access to information and to education for women. So I have also here some testimony of women. So we have here 37 women who say that Olu brought many changes in our lives. Kids stay longer at night with the lights and learn the lessons. We also spend a lot of time outside with the light on. So this is a real testimony, and that's a proof of impact of SHS in a women's life in our markets.
Yeah, thank you, Fatoumata. And Joanne, what do you have to add? What type of support do women-owned or managed mini-grid developers need?
Yeah, so listening to Fatou, it's really, it's really amazing because there are sort of similar benefits that are, accrued when you're looking at the mini-grid market and you're looking at the solar home system market. But having said that, what I would like to say is that obviously women play, a very critical role in the energy transition. And it's really unfortunate that most of them are left out of the decision-making, space. And, there's a lot of restrictions with regard to, women's ability to access financing, employment opportunities and so forth. And having said that, when you're looking at the mini-grid market and, AMDA, the Africa Mini-Grid Developers Association, actually represents 42 private sector companies across 19 markets. We have very few women-owned enterprises. And, what I like about, CI Africa, going back to the structure of CI Africa, is that, there's actually that intentionality, to recognize, the value of women participation, and to be able to embed this, the gender lens approach to being able to the structure of the fund, But I guess what is needed from a mini-grid ecosystem perspective is, number one, provision of seed capital and incubation hubs that are ideal for women-owned enterprises, that provide investor readiness and capital raising support. Number two, I guess the other key thing is that, women-led enterprises need to be encouraged and developed across the energy access value chain. I think there's a lot of opportunity for localization to ensure that, that women are actually participating in productive use of electricity value chain, so that then we are able to uplift and upscale women to be able to, participate in the greater goal of, building resilient agricultural practices, enhancing clean cooking. And I think there's really a lot of value in supporting such initiatives. The third thing I'd like to talk about is the opportunity for business mentoring and coaching that enables women to learn from, larger enterprises, and, also enabling the transfer of skills and tacit knowledge, in areas of strategy development, ESG. And I think there's really a gap there, and really looking forward to initiatives that can be able to sort these gaps within the women owned enterprises space, in the mini-grid development companies. So having said that, I'm really excited about the catalytic nature of the CI Africa Fund, and I'm looking forward to seeing the effect of this on the mini-grid space. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. So before I turn to my last panelist once more, Steven, I would also like to mention that we have the initiator and mastermind of this initiative here with us, Bärbel Höhn. So maybe I just give you a little heads up. We will have a last question, and maybe you would like to also comment on your baby, which you're now being seen, or you're now seeing being implemented, like how that resonates with you. But maybe after Steven. Yeah, Steven, in order to scale this initiative, more public and also private funds are needed. The ambassador alluded to the fact that it would be perfect if other donors would join our initiative. But how can private climate investors really benefit and see a reward in investing in this initiative? And how relevant do you see in the ecosystem are development benefits for them at the moment?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, that's a good question. I think first let's establish that we have seen that there is clear potential, and hearing from Joanne and Fatuma, there certainly is a lot of demand out there, and maybe just annuity that, as you might know, we started a call for proposal in East Africa a week and a half ago, and we already have 82 applicants in our pocket there. So demand is certainly there. Still, as everybody knows, over 500 million of people are without access to energy. So yeah, it's no surprise that we have ambitions to grow what we have now. We want to mobilize capital first on the layer of the foundation. We have the KFW money from public donors like also ADA and STC, but we're also looking for more larger private investors on the foundation level, such as foundations. And on the second level, obviously on the project level, we want to 3 times leverage what we are mobilizing on the foundation level. So we do that through cooperation with crowd lenders. There's many private small retail investors that would like to invest here if we have good propositions. But also we want to mobilize investors directly in the projects. And all in all, we want to put $500 million to work with the objective to generate more than 500,000 new grids and reach out to over 3 million beneficiaries. So how to do that? And I think that's the key point here. The added value for private investors, one, I would say, is in the setup. We have a great team full of expertise. We have GreenMax
handling the RBF window. They have been in the clean energy advisory space for a very long time. We have Persistent doing the crowd lending window. They are a household name in off-grid venture building, and we have ourselves, Triple Jump. We have been mobilizing and investing capital for impact in emerging markets for over a decade and a half. So there is a solid team there, and we are used to also attracting private investors, which is very important. But I think, and it was already alluded to in the beginning, what is the most important is that we can de-risk the projects that we're looking at. For one, we have a high risk appetite. The capital that we provide can be structured in such a way that it benefits as a cushion private investors. On a second level, we have a TA that we can award and work together with the green mini grids and also with the companies in order to increase their investment readiness. This is a very important thing. And as a third leg, we have the result-based financing window that we can award to successful projects, ensuring their viability and making the economic terms better for private investors. So all to stabilize the sector, solar home systems, commercial and industrial green mini grids, and I think with the expertise that we hold together, with all the ingredients, we will be able to attract private investors, and that's the end goal. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And it's a big endeavor, and I wish all the success possible to get to these high numbers. But there is a lot of potential, as we heard. But now I would like to ask Bärbel Höhn to comment, and maybe you can explain a bit about your function, which led you to this exercise of initiating this foundation.
Yeah, thank you so much. When I finished my political career, I was more than 30 years in politics. Then the minister asked me to be special representative of energy in Africa. And that's a big job, I would say. So we started with a small program and with a very funny name, Green People's Energy. And I always tell the people, we are not talking about green people, we are talking about green energy for the people. And so we were working together with the GIZ. So thanks to the colleague from the GIZ coming here. And I noticed very soon that we need to scale up. We need a financial instrument. So I went to the KFW. And I think it was a bit strange idea for the KFW to look for these small projects, you know. So there was I would say a bit a debate between us, but now we are on the good track because it's important to do something, because half of the population in Africa have no access to electricity, half of the population. And even after the starting of the aggressive war of Russia in Ukraine, we know what does it mean to have less access to gas, for example, or to electricity. All our money, all our lifestyle here in Europe is part of electricity, you know. So if you have no electricity, you are poor and you have a problem to combat hunger and poverty. And so we said, yes, when half of the population in Africa have no access to electricity, and when from this half of the population, 90% are living in rural areas, so we have to look for decentralized solutions. And because that is, in Africa, that's a white map, you know? So we have not a grid to all of the villages all over the country. And so we were looking for decentralized solution. And thanks to the ambassador, we were looking not only for electricity, but electricity is only one word. We would like to do something with electricity. And that means productive use. To cool the fish, for example, to dry the fruits, to have more income, to have more jobs, and 2/3 of the Sustainable Development Goals you can reach better with electricity, and especially women have a profit of it. Yes, so it was a long process, sometimes a bit difficult, but now I think we are starting very successful, and it's really great to have Switzerland on board. Thank you. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mrs. Höhn. That was also good to know the history of this endeavor. Yeah, I would like to conclude this session, and I would like to provide many, many thank yous. I would like to thank State Secretary Flass, but he had to leave a bit early, for his personal support, but also for the ministry's support for this initiative and for opening this event. And I'm also very, very grateful for this very esteemed panel. Ambassador Baumann, our host Christiane Leibach, and then also Joanne and Fatoumata and Steven, who joined us online. And I have to apologize a bit. It's so difficult to really establish a link because you're behind me with your faces and a camera in front of me. So if that felt a bit awkward, I apologize for that. But it was great to have you. And you painted a picture for us also what this means for women in Africa, what this means for the mini-grid developers to have access to these types of instruments. Yeah, and thank you for the audience here at the IDFC Pavilion and the online audience. And please share this with all your peers. Please share the news that this is on for clean energy and energy inclusion. And also our hosts of the IDFC, the Secretariat, which is hosted this year by Agence Française de Développement. Without them, this event wouldn't have been possible. And yeah, it's been a pleasure to be with you, all of you. And yeah, have a great day. Thank you.